Right on. Yeah, I think this is our third time. Third time's a charm that we've interviewed.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
And it's interesting because the first time we interviewed was in 21, and
Yeah.
I just kept, by that point, we had been in the pandemic long enough where I kept thinking, I can't wait to catch up with everyone after this is done, which we had no idea when that was going to happen. So
Yeah.
it is really good to kind of just recalibrate, see all this new music coming out. So it's awesome. Thank you for reaching out. It's great to connect. And it's also cool too because, the technical acumen of everybody is up so much in this like Zoom world that we're in. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so yeah, let's get into the new album here. Let's talk a little bit about Horizontal Depths. It's it's the follow-up to Wrongs, and I want to know what was kind of your vision for this project? What was your thought going into it?
So kind of jumping off of wrongs and talking again just on the note you made about like kind of the COVID times and that which is when wrongs was made. That was really a make it or break it type record where I didn't really know what was gonna happen, if we were gonna play gigs again, if we were gonna do anything again. So I was like, well, let's do this record. Like I have this music, and it had been music I had been writing for some of it was really old. I had written when I was in school. Other pieces were brand new, and I was thinking, I have the trio. I was like, should I try this with the trio? Oh, I'm hearing something with more horns. So that record was really about like, let's just go for it, and here's all this music. Whereas Horizontal Depths was more about I really wanted to write for the band and for each of my band members and just kind of have a more heavily written album where I'm using more of the instrumentation of everyone to get different sounds and different arranging methods out.
So, how did you ultimately, now that it's they come to fruition and it's here, how do you feel about it? Like, with your initial vision, it takes a long time. There's a lot of elements, a lot of players that go into this. How you on a visceral level feel about this?
I mean, I'm extremely satisfied with how the record has come out, both music wise and sound wise. We did also try to capture this record slightly different. The rhythm section was kind of all together, so there's a little bit more. One thing I like to do when making records is I always like to try something different, even in the recording process as well. Which in this case there was a little bit more bleed between the instruments, just because that's how we recorded our trio record stages, and I really liked how that sounded. So but overall, yeah, I'm really happy with just seeing everything come together. It was, it's become a bit of a tricky process. Not all of us live in Toronto anymore in the band, so it's kind of like coordinating everyone to like come in and rehearse and get the music together, which again, because it's more heavily written, that was definitely a challenge. I mean, we were rehearsing like months before we went into the studio, and we were lucky enough that we ended up having two nights of gigs before heading in, so we had like tons of time to like workshop, rehearse. But no, the band really did a stellar job on the record, and I'm really proud with how it came out.
So, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album? I know it's not on the forefront, but it's definitely a part of the process, the artistic process of delivering something. What's your hope?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I'm making music these days, I get labeled as a jazz musician, and I feel like with that label, it can sometimes it can come off as like, oh, like you went to school, you studied this music, and like you make this music, but not everyone gets it, so to speak. But when nowadays when making records, even though I'm trying these different concepts and these kind of non-mainstream experimental methods, ultimately I want to make a record that people like. I want to make a record that I would listen to, and And you know, like I listen to a lot of different music, and mostly honestly like a lot of like non-jazz and a lot of, I wouldn't say popular music, but like things that are accessible. And I think it's my hope that when I put this record out, it's something that people can listen to and be surprised about, but not afraid to dive into, to be curious about.
So, what are you ultimately going to do as far as promotion, touring, getting this out to the people?
So we're running a campaign right now, obviously like with radio and the reviews coming in. Um and of course, starting next week I have a tour with the band. We're going to Western Canada. So we have a few dates in Toronto. Actually, starting tomorrow, we're doing a master class at the University of Toronto. And then we're playing 2 nights at the Rex Hotel in Toronto. And then we are playing in Vancouver at Tyrant Studios, the Yardbird Suite in Edmonton, the Basement in Saskatoon, and Highline Brewing in Calgary with an organization called Bug Incision. And then coming back to Toronto to play at the Transac is kind of an unofficial release show.
Yeah.
But that's what we got going on. We also have been really lucky to be invited to the Open Waters Festival in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and
Yeah.
that's coming up in January. And that's a festival I've had my eyes on for a long time now. They always put on really cool music there, and they always have really cool artists. So it's a real treat. I'm really looking forward to being a part of that, and that's coming up in January.
I know that you've been back at the live music scene for a while, and we've kind of the pandemic's in the rearview mirror, so to speak. But w- has that fervor the audience has for seeing live music remained? Is there a different vibe?
It definitely feels different, and I I would like to think that the pandemic made us realize we really need live music. We really need that physicality in our lives, and how essential that is. The scene today, it it really does vary, and I think in Toronto anyways, it sort of has to do with um just kind of the struggles with like cost of living here, and especially for younger for younger listeners and even students that are wanting to come out, it is a struggle of trying to make sure like the band gets like, decent cover, decent pay and that, but also like people being able to come out and see a show. And yeah, I think that's definitely been the biggest obstacle with the live music scene and trying to get people to come out and participate. But it's kind of like it's kind of hard to see what that's going to look like in the future, but we just kind of keep persisting. We keep playing.
Yeah, for sure. So again, Horizontal Depths is the new album. It's always such a fresh, revealing sound, and I know you get put in the jazz realm, but there's so much going on here that transcends genres. So it's a wonderful album, and I know the one thing of this new world that we live in, it's so much better for the consumer to get music in a way that's going to benefit you the best. Streaming is just pennies on the dollar. So, what's the best way that people can support you, come out and see you live? Any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, which is www.dan-pitt.com. That'll have all my gigs, all my music, and links to all those sources. For purchasing music, Bandcamp for sure is the best way to go. It's the best way to support artists. You get to buy the record and stream it. Bandcamp's a free app. You just buy the records and then you get it forever, and you get to own it. So my Bandcamp is danpitt.bandcamp.com, and all my records are up there, and I even have discounted prices for if you buy a bundle. So if you buy my complete discography, you get, I think it's 25 or 30% off. I can't remember.
Okay, cool. Excellent, Dan. It's so great to catch back up with you. Third time's a charm. It's great to see you in living color. Have a great tour, great release. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Joe, thanks so much for having me on the show again. It's always a pleasure, and thanks for taking
Absolutely.
the time.